So this is factoring trinomials, a equals 1 with now taking out a GCF, and you might see that it's prime. So the first step is we're going to factor out the GCF or ask ourselves if there is a GCF that we have to factor out. And then what's going to happen is you're going to find the factors of ax squared and c like we did in our last video. And then number 3 is if there's no two numbers that work, and there is no GCF that is prime, then it is prime. So prime means it's not factorable, so it cannot work. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with the first one, and we're going to ask ourselves, is there a GCF that we can take out? There is, and that GCF is going to be 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor, or factor out our GCF. So 4 divided by 4 is going to give me c squared. Negative 36c divided by 4 is going to give me negative 9c. And then 56 divided by 4 is going to be a positive 14. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find our factors of c squared, which is c times c. We're going to find our factors of 14, which is 1 and 14 and 2 and 7. And we're going to decide, do either of these factors allow us to add up to negative 9c? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have c and c go in the first terms. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 and 7 because that's going to somehow get us to negative 9. And because it's a positive 14, this means that it could be 2 positive numbers or 2 negative numbers. I'm going to do negative because that's going to help me get up to 9c. By factor, I get negative 7c, or I'm checking right now, not factoring, but if I check, I'm going to get negative 7c plus my inside term, which is negative 2c. That does add up to negative 9c. So my final answer is actually, we're going to have to bring this GCF down. So my final answer is 4 times c minus 2 multiplied by c minus 7. That's my final answer. For number 2, we're going to ask ourselves the same question, and we're going to say, can I take out a GCF? Remember, the first term cannot be negative, so we automatically have to take out a GCF of negative 1. So all of the terms are going to switch to the opposite value. We're then going to list out all the factors of r squared, which is r times r. We're going to list out the factors of 24, so 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 6 and 4, and that is going to be it. Now, we're going to look to see, does any of these allow me to add up to 14? What's going to happen is we're going to put r and r. We're then going to see, okay, the only one that I could see that could get us close to 14 is 2 and 12. So I'm going to put 2 and 12 here. And then I'm going to make it a positive because I want them to add up to 14. So r times r is 12r. 2 times r is 2r, which is going to give me 14r. So I checked it. I'm all good. Remember, you have to bring down the GCF. So my final answer is negative 1 times r plus 2 multiplied by r plus 12. Now this one, what we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, can I take out a GCF? And in this case, I cannot. So I'm going to start finding my factors. So I have v times v for v squared. I have 1 times 11. And now I'm going to look and I'm going to think about this. And I'm going to say, even if I put v and v here and 11 and 1 here, this is never going to add up to negative 5. No matter if this is plus or minus, doesn't matter. It's never going to work. So in this case, this one is going to identify as prime, which means it's not factorable. So our final answer just is prime. Our next one, we're going to see that we do have a GCF we're going to take out. And in this case, we're going to take out a 2, and they all have z's, so we're going to take out a 2z. So 2 z to the third power divided by 2z is going to give me z to the second power. 20 divided by 2 is going to give me positive 10. Z squared divided by z is going to just give me a z. And 36z divided by 2z is going to give me a positive 18. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find the factors of z squared, which is z times z. We're going to find the factors of 18, which is 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 8. So, 3 and 6. Now what's going to happen is that we're going to see, can any of these numbers add up to 10? 1 and 18, no, that's not going to be able to add up to 10. 2 and 9, no, that's not going to be able to add up to 10. And 3 and 6, no, that's not going to be able to add up to 10. Some of you might think to yourself, like, okay, this is going to be prime. It actually isn't, because this is going to be your final answer. Because we took out a GCF in the beginning, this is actually going to be your final answer because you did factor it, so it's not considered prime. Because you were able to take out a GCF, that counts as factoring, so that would be your final answer. Our last example here is that we have to see if we can take out a GCF. So your first question is, can you take it out? And your answer is yes, because you see it's a negative, so automatically you have to take out a negative. We can take out, we look at 2, 20, or negative 2, negative 20, and 48. You can take out a negative 2, and you also can take out an A out of each of them. So it would be negative 2A as your GCF. So now you're going to do negative 2A divided by negative 2A to the third power divided by negative 2A, and that's going to give me A squared. Negative 20 divided by negative 2 is a positive 10. A squared divided by A is just A. Then 48 divided by negative 2 is going to give me a negative 24. And then what we're going to do is that we are going to close that off. And now we're going to say to ourselves, okay, how can we get a positive 10? So we have our factors of 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6. We have our factors of A and A. A times A is A squared. So how can we get, now because this is a negative, we have to make one of them negative. So I'm going to use this one because even though this one's going to get me 10, I wouldn't be able to use a negative number to get me to a positive 10. So I'm going to use this one because I could use a negative 2 and a positive 12. So I'm going to have A and A. I'm going to put 12 and 2. I want to make this one a positive and this one a negative. So that's going to end up being, if I multiply the outside, I get negative 2A plus positive 12A equals 10A, which is correct. Now I have to bring down my GCF to include in my final answer. So my answer is going to be negative 2A times A plus 2 times A minus 2.